So I'm at the church grounds in St Thomas, and I've just had a quick look at the turkey oak, which is behind this huge tree. And the tree in front is a beech tree. So this is one of our native species, woodland species tree. Lovely tree. As I said, one of our tallest native deciduous trees. So we're going to have a closer look at this lovely tree. Now, as I said, it's a native tree, so very well suited to everything the English weather can throw at it. Planted often in green spaces and parks, and don't often see them so much in church grounds because, as I said, you normally see yew and holly, but yeah, lovely to see. So this is a very large specimen. So beech, sometimes known as common beech, European beech. The scientific name is Fagus sylvatica, and you've got the lovely primroses growing at the bottom, and of course you've got a few little holly shrubs trying to grow, which again is very common with beech and oak. You often get them growing under, and various other little plants as well. Lovely. So with the root system of beech trees, they tend to have shallow roots, so you've got to be careful where they're planted. If the soil isn't the right sort of quality, there's a risk that when the tree becomes fairly mature, the sheer weight of it is then going to cause it to fall over in high winds. So but yeah, touch wood, this tree has stood up to many bad storms in the UK. So a couple of common characteristics with beech trees: the bark is grey, what type of grey, and is very smooth compared to like an oak. So if we go further up, you'll see, the light isn't going to help us actually, but it is extremely smooth bark. I'll have to go round because, sorry, the sun is, I'm in the wrong position for this really. So because the bark is quite smooth, you don't tend to get as much lichen or moss. That doesn't mean to say it won't grow on it, but if you compare it to like a Norway maple or an oak, there is considerably less moss and lichen. This is better. So this is the more what you'd probably see on beech trees. Nice smooth grey bark, and that actually is a very important characteristic because the smoothness of the bark, it's from young to old. With a lot of trees, the bark of a tree is completely different from a young tree to an older tree, which can make tree identification extremely difficult. But luckily with beech trees, as I said, their bark is typically smooth throughout their entire life. So as I said, this is a huge specimen, which is great. So most people are familiar with the pretty postcards or posters and notes where you've got a lovely scene of beech trees and bluebells. So yeah, this is what would be one of them, and yeah, it is an absolute scene to see. I can't speak properly now, sorry. So if you're lucky enough to have a beech woodland nearby and it's springtime, you definitely want to go down and have a look, because it's like being in another world. So I think we've had a look at the bark, the trunk, the roots. We're going to try to look at some of the other characteristics. Now the only problem is a lot of the twigs, branches and buds are quite high up. You can see this if I just quickly go up here. there's no way I'm going to be able to jump up there. But you can get a rough idea if you sort of closely look at the twigs and the branches. The buds they alternate, which is again the same for all members of the beech family. I'll hopefully, if I can, actually, there we go, I'm going to have a quick walk over here near this lovely yew tree, but you can see these buds here, which I thought I was going to be able to reach, but do you know what, I'm still too short, so I'm going to have to find another one. But at this time of the year, so it's April, beech is beginning to go into leaf and flower. Now I have seen a few other beech trees in Exeter where they're already in flower and in sort of getting their young leaves. This one hasn't quite reached that stage yet. If I can just find, there we go. I was looking in the wrong place completely. This is brilliant. So I'm going to now, hopefully, I'm still not tall enough. Oh, that's going to be difficult. You can't really see that, sorry. Right, I don't want to hurt it. Oh, it's not going to zoom in properly, sorry. Oh, I'm really sorry for the fuzziness there. Yep. Well, there's no way I can do it without damaging the tree, so I'm not going to do that. But if I was a bit taller, although with some lower branches, you'd be able to see the buds. So, as I said, you can just about make out the buds there. During the winter months, they're typically like a almost torpedo shaped with a sort of crisscross pattern, so they are extremely easy to identify amongst all the various trees and shrubs we have. And these are monoecious, so much like oak, male and female flowers on the same tree but different parts. Unfortunately it's not flowered yet, so I can't show you, but I will come back later and hopefully I'll be able to reach some of them. Yeah, the male and female flowers, so the male flowers sort of dangle a little bit like catkins, then they release the male pollen. The female flowers are more closely attached to the twigs. They then turn, you can probably just about see there, what we call beech mast, which are like spiny capsules that contain 2 or 3 beech nuts. And then during autumn, once they've all matured, the ground is absolutely covered in mast. You can see it here still. So this is probably a bit easier to see, look there. So if you see any of these on the ground where you live, you've got a beech tree, and inside would be 2 or 3 sort of triangular shaped nuts, which even better, there we go. Well, that one's been nobbled by a squirrel by the look of it, but as you can see they're, I won't say triangular, but they're 3 pointed, and you'll have 2 or 3 per mast, so there's actually quite a lot here. That's probably, oh no, squirrels have been tucking away at these, but they will produce thousands and thousands of mast, and then sometimes you have what's called a mast year, which happens with beech and oak, where they'll just basically every 3 or 4 years produce an absolutely ginormous amount of mast, like 3-4 times the amount sometimes. I'm assuming it's a survival tactic. They obviously know what's going on. Don't forget, underneath our feet is a very busy underground thriving network that science is only just beginning to understand. So trees are very sensitive above and below the ground so they know what's going on. But as I said, a mast year for beech and oak, every now and again they basically just throw out loads more fruit, as we call it, beech mast. So I was hoping maybe a couple of the twigs or branches might have fallen off with some of the buds on, but I don't think we're going to find any. Again, you've got absolutely tons more mast there. This will have to do. So as I said, you've got your characteristic torpedo shaped buds, pointed, and they've got a sort of nice little crisscross. And you can clearly see that these are, keep zooming in on the grass, sorry, they're not opposite buds like ash, they're arranged alternately. By the look of it, this must have fallen off probably 3-4 weeks ago, because it hasn't even begun to open up yet. I was hoping to find one that has fallen off, that's just beginning to go into leaf or flower. But no, that's fine. As I said, I will keep a very close eye on this one. So if we go back to the canopy of the tree, steady hand for this. In a month's time this will be completely different. This will be covered in flowers and leaves, and it will be a very busy place for our birds and insects and spiders alike. I mean, look, just down here we've got a busy little bee. Oh, he's gone now. He was there, but I was too slow. So a few other facts with beech. Not so much in this country, but in other countries, the very young leaves are used for salad. So instead of like cabbage and lettuce, they'll harvest all the young leaves of beech, wash them, and then they'll use them as a salad. So that's interesting. So, you know, edible leaves is always useful to know. Again, in this country, because of the various methods that councils and other private people use to control their plants and trees, you'd have to be careful with what's sprayed in and around the ground. And also you've got that busy road over there. Of course, that means cars throw out horrible nitrogen oxide and other rubbish, so car fumes and pollution. So I wouldn't be personally recommending going out foraging any young leaves on beech trees around here, but that's just more, you know, just a interesting bit of information. They sometimes, because again young beech leaves is very soft, they have been used as pillow stuffing in some countries. So, you know, rather than use feathers, they use beech leaves, which is, you know, another great use of the tree. The dye can be made from the leaves, or it used to be many years ago. I don't think that's the case now. And you might have seen this in some clothes shops where it will say, like, particularly socks and baby clothes, so anything that's like super soft, it will say it's made from, and I'm going to probably pronounce this wrong now, either modal or model, but basically it's the sort of cellulose from beech tree. They very cleverly refine that, turn it into that product, and then it's used as a component for like things like baby clothes and socks, and like I say, it basically gives it that quality of super soft material, which makes them a little bit more pricey, but then again it's a, you know, a lot of work probably goes into that to make that happen. Yeah, so lovely tree. trying to think of anything else that might be useful to know. We've covered the type of flowers, wind pollinated, and the seed production. Oh, regards the leaves, sorry, so they are sort of, when they're mature, they're wavy leaves, green typically, but there are a couple of different varieties of beech. So you've got copper beech, or sometimes called purple beech. So other than the leaves being like a lovely coppery purple, sorry, my camera techniques are terrible, the rest of the tree is pretty much the same. It's also used for hedging as well. So beech not only is a fantastic tree, it's a very common hedge. You know, it's widely planted in parks and, you know, private gardens. Easy to maintain, good screen, low cost normally as well, which is always a win-win. Now with beech as well as oak, you might have noticed sometimes, especially on the younger trees and shrubs, that during the colder season the leaves sometimes stay on there, which throws a lot of people off, because most people ask, why are you keeping the leaves on there when you should be getting rid of them? Well, scientists aren't really sure why. They've got a lot of cool ideas, but no one's really been able to be 100% sure, but they call that marcescence. So whenever you see something like an oak or a beech, hornbeam does it as well, but that type of family of tree and shrub, where during the cold season, sort of autumn winter, where it's still retaining all the sort of what we would look at as the dead leaves, all the brown, that's marcescence, or it's being marcescent. Again, it might just be a survival technique, but it tends to be on, from what I've researched, younger trees, or very common on shrubs. So it might just be as simple as it's down to the age of the tree rather than survival technique. You know, we need to stop thinking of trees as being like objects that have a certain age. They're like 10 years old or 100. You know, they're living things, and just like people are born as babies, grow up as children, teenagers, young adults, and then they grow up and so on. If we start thinking more like that and apply that to trees, who's to say it's not just trees going through a phase like a teenager? We just don't know. And I guess it sounds ridiculous, but there's so much we don't understand about trees. And as I said, down here, that's where the really cool stuff's happening, and we just don't know. We're spending billions and billions of pounds on sending satellites and stuff into space, yet we haven't even really understood about these fantastic creatures, or living beings, that actually it's these guys that give us an atmosphere in the first place. Without oxygen, you don't have an ozone layer. Simple as that. We're nothing without these guys. So I think maybe we should be funneling research down here, understanding this amazing network of what's going on, and we can answer some more cool questions. But anyway, so that's beech. And one last thing to mention with beech: as great as these trees are, they don't like pollution. So they're not widely planted as a street tree. They can't, it's probably because of the smooth bark. Unlike a London plane tree, which can easily shed off all the horrible rubbish that our cars pump out, those little exhaust pipes, beech trees are quite slow growing trees, and as you see, the bark is that characteristic grey smooth. Simply put, it's not going to handle pollution well. So again, planted in parks, in green spaces where there's lots of circulation of clean air, but you put one of these on a busy street, it's not going to do very well. But yeah, this is a fantastic beech tree, and I hope you found this useful. Again, sorry for the wonky camera, it's difficult holding steady. As I said, I'm not a professional cameraman, I don't pretend to be, I just do my study here and there and pop it on the wobbly web and let people learn from it. So, you know, let me know your thoughts and feedback. If you've got any suggestions to things like marcescence, that would be really cool, or anything else that might help all of us understand and learn about trees in general, or anything about the beech tree that we just talked about. You know, please, you know, leave them in the comments on YouTube or Instagram, whatever I've posted this on, because I tend to put this out as many social channels as I can. Well, thanks for watching. As I said, I hope you found this useful and fascinating. Oh, I keep saying this, one last thing. Beech trees, because of the way the bark forms and grows and it doesn't really change, you might find that people etch their name into the bark, which, as I said, luckily doesn't usually damage the tree. I would never obviously do it myself, but I've seen it done many a times where somebody will write their name or some little message, and that will last there till the tree is gone. Because unlike a lot of trees, as I said, the bark doesn't change. If you tried doing that in any other tree, then over, well, I say a short time, probably 30 to 70 years or so, all of that etching would fall out or just be swallowed up by the bark. But yeah, that's why with beech trees people would often write little messages on there, because they know that they'd last for the life of the tree. But luckily this one hasn't really suffered any graffiti that I can see. Yeah, brilliant, lovely tree. Well, thanks again for watching, and any feedback or ideas please leave below. Thanks for watching.